African traditional jurisprudence. A crime committed by one individual on another will extend far beyond the two individuals and has far-reaching implications to the people from among whom the perpetrator of the crime comes. Initially, it used to be that if one person comes from one ridge or one village and comes and maybe commits a crime like murder or does something in another society across the other ridge, yes, the individual has a punishment to meet, but the people from whom this person comes will be looked at as responsible for the crime committed by the other. And therefore you will find that there would be far-reaching implications of lost relationship, lost trust. It causes pain that even one member from this area where this person who committed a crime cannot pass through the other, even if there was the only way to go to another village through this family or through this community. You would be looked at as the enemy of the community. You will not marry from each other because your relationship has been tainted or has been spotted with this kind of crime that has been committed by somebody. So that's why we bring the idea of one person belonging to a community, whatever he commits, good or bad, will be attributed to members of the community. So that is the African way of looking at justice. Leadership. A leader who has Ubuntu is selfless and consults widely and listens to the subjects. A person who has Ubuntuism, who has humanism, is selfless, does not look at his own personal needs. He looks at the needs of the subjects and will consult elders, his peers, the wise people, and listen to what the subjects are saying. If you can compare this leadership with the present elective leadership, you find that present leadership has lost this idea of Ubuntuism. They become leaders. Being elective, it means that the next season we can elect another one. But because of selfishness, some leaders do not want to leave their seats. They want to remain there to achieve what they want, and they forget about what the subjects want. They don't consult. Some people consult themselves. They do things according to their will. When mistakes come, they don't own them. Therefore, we need to know that a leader who has got humanism, Ubuntuism, is selfless, will go an extra mile to serve the people. A leader does not adopt a lifestyle that is different from the subjects and live among them and share property. This is again contrary to what we are saying here, because present life leaders, they are above the ladders and they don't allow even anybody to come closer. If you try to come closer, they will push you away. They use the law which is embedded in security forces, and the constitution can sometimes be manipulated in order to push people away. But leadership does not lead, but allows the people to lead themselves and cannot impose this will on his people, because we said that the will of the people determines the leader. But here, if you don't allow people to lead themselves, you are driving them. Well, there is a saying that a good leader leads with the people. They work together. He doesn't go far ahead in front or behind, because he might go behind driving the people the road they don't understand. Then he might go ahead and forget that there are people who are even weak behind him. But when you walk together like an extended line, you are able to see who is weak, who is strong, and you keep controlling them because you are going together. And even they control your footsteps. You don't go beyond them. You would be able to be checked and you check them. What is encourages relationship with others? A person with Ubuntu is open and available to others. You sit and listen. These are human beings. You see, one of the things that maybe we fail to recognize is that you are chosen among many, not because that you are super, not that because you are having better understanding of the world around you, but they want a representative who can always stand before them. So that's why you need to be open and be available to others. Don't overlook them. Don't consider yourself as if they cannot see you and talk to you. So you need to affirm the resolutions, the other things that other members can contribute in your leadership. You do not feel free or threatened that others are able and good. Some people, when they see somebody appreciated by others, like you talk very well, you do this and that, they feel threatened. And that is the case like we see in the Old Testament between Saul and David. When David was praised for killing Goliath, then Saul became jealousy. Jealousy is not a characteristic of good leadership. If you want to be a good leader, don't feel threatened. Because after all, we have different gifts. Even the subjects that you lead have gifts that can be contributed into your leadership. Leadership is shared views. One is aware that he or she belongs in a greater whole and is diminished when others are humiliated or diminished, when others are tortured or oppressed. In other words, a leader who is really a true leader, when his people die, he also feels he has died. If they are humiliated, he is also humiliated. So, if you find that there is something affecting your people, you should also feel affected. Don't feel like saying that, that is to the poor or to the subjects, I can always be safe. Another good example is in the book of Esther. Esther is not African, but we can borrow from there. When the Jews felt threatened, Mordecai communicated to Esther. But Esther was like, how do I do it? I will face problems with the king and whatever. And then Mordecai reminded her, I said, okay. If you don't feel like that, remember that if danger attacks your people, you'll also be attacked. You are not safe because you are a Jew. So, humanism is not recognized in terms of status. I am a king, these are subjects. I am rich, these are poor. I'm educated, these are... Humanism is everybody who has blood, everybody who is a human being. So, we find that a leader is affected by what affects his people. Ubuntu as a recognized important source of law. This is to be contrasted with vengeance. It dictates that a higher value be placed on the life of a human being. It is a law in itself. Let's look at the other one. Are we of the same status? Status not in terms of jobs, offices, and whatever, but status of humanity. Are we all human beings? So it would create fear within a person to avoid killing another. It is inextricably linked to the values of and which places a higher premium on dignity, compassion, humanness, and respect for humanity of another. Respect for another human being. No matter where that person comes from, what the social status might be or academic status, but place a high premium on dignity and compassion accompanied by humanness and respect for one another. Respect me as I respect you. It dictates a shift from confrontation to mediation and conciliation. When we say it dictates, in other words, it does not negotiate. A shift from confrontation to mediation. Instead of confronting one another for wrongs committed, try to find a mediation and reconciliation so that the human community or society is still maintained in harmony. It also dictates good attitudes and shared concern. Should have a good attitude towards one another, and then we share our concerns. Be concerned for me and I become concerned for you. It also favors the reestablishment of harmony in the relationship between the parties, and that such a harmony should restore the dignity of the plaintiff without ruining the defendant. This comes in terms of the legal practice. We have been living in a society which thinks that when anything wrong goes, then the only thing we can do is to run to the police or to apply legalism. And yet, as human beings, when we want to establish harmony in a relationship between one party or the other, we need to encourage the restoration of dignity of either the defendant or the plaintiff, such that you don't encourage them to reach a level where one is going to suffer at the hands of the other. But instead, as we talked about reconciliation and mediation, you, as a member of a community, as a human being, you stand between the plaintiff and the defendant so that they can reach an understanding of forgiveness, and they begin living amicably as members of the community without having one person looking at the other as an enemy. It also favors restorative measures rather than retributive justice. This is exactly what I have just looked at. He says, because you have done this, we should also do this in order to cause pain on you so that you can understand. No. Woundism is restorative. It establishes such a grounds to restore relationships, to restore understanding. It operates in a direction favoring reconciliation rather than estrangement of disputants. Sometimes when we go to courts of law, or we involve police, or some other kind of levels of legal involvement, you will find that these two people, they end up estranged because of either the punishment the other one has incurred. And sometimes, as human beings, we are not like God. You find that even somebody has been punished wrongly, because it is not easy for us to establish grounds for truth. Somebody who may think is giving evidence might have been bribed to speak as if it is true, and at the end of it all, there is a kind of estrangement between the two people or the disputants. So you can see that the issue of humanism is very, very important and core in maintaining harmony in a society. It also works towards sensitizing a disputant or a defendant in litigation to the hurtful impact of his actions to the other party, and towards changing such a conduct rather than merely punishing the disputant. This helps us to understand that when you involve humanism, even if it is at a level of giving a punishment, it will not be something that a person goes to do merely as a punishment, but something that changes the conduct of the disputant, or somebody who is in the wrong. Punishing the disputant can be something that does not bring back relationship unless it is involving litigation. It promotes mutual understanding rather than punishment. Humanism promotes mutual understanding. You encourage people to talk together and reach a point of understanding to resolve their disputes. It also favors face-to-face encounters of disputants with a view to facilitating differences being resolved rather than conflict and victory for the most powerful. Sometimes some people become victorious because they are very good at advocacy, advocating for the others. They are very good at telling lies. They are very good at argument. And at the end of the day, you may find that somebody who would have been victorious has become defeated. And some people who become victorious go proudly calling others names, pointing fingers, jubilating because they have become victorious. And as a result, it creates differences, it creates enmity. But humanism favors a face-to-face encounter. Let people sit at the round table and talk together. Maybe they can get a facilitator who can help them, but they arrive at a point resolved in a better way. Also, Wuntism favors civility and civilized dialogue premised on mutual tolerance. You tolerate one another. It is a civilized way of carrying out a negotiation, a reconciliation, and a kind of a comeback to community life. This picture shows a world software and globalization, which we are not going to talk about. In fact, I need to remove it. but initially it was released on 20th October 2004. Free and open source software. It is named after a Southern African philosophy of Ubuntu, which often is translated as humanity towards others, or the belief in a universal bond of sharing that which connects all humanity. So in conclusion, the African philosophy or worldview provides an opportunity for the world to correct its individualistic way of life embedded in the philosophy of capitalism. This indicates a great contribution of African Renaissance to the universe in the 20th century. Here you have references which you can use to understand the idea and the philosophy of Ubuntu. All those.